Give me some of that turnbuckle action. We're coming in hot.
How fired up are you?
When you're hot, everybody wants you.
Honestly, it didn't.
We took SportsCenter to that WrestleMania.
I don't even think he told the Patriots that he was doing the spot.
Can you imagine the backlash? No pun intended. She looks like $1 million. But here's the problem.
24/7 title doesn't exactly springboard your career.
And it is that time again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into your new favorite Storytime Pro Wrestling show we like to call Behind the Turnbuckle. I am the coach. He is my partner, Big Tommy C. And Tommy, our guest today coming up in just a few minutes. One of the best interviews, one of the best guys, one of the best talents I've ever met. Mojo Rawley will be right here. Are you hyped?
I'm hyped. You know, all the 32 years, I never really worked with Mojo, but I'm excited for this interview. I can't wait till we get to it.
He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's been out of wrestling. He's doing TMZ Sports, like a lot of stuff. We're going to ask him about that coming up in just a little bit. But if you're new and you're just trying us out, give us a subscription. You got to sub to the show, sub to the. I always feel weird saying sub to our YouTube channel, but that's exactly what it is. All right, hit that like button. It really helps the show grow. We talk somewhat about Raw, Smackdown, and the pay-per-views, but we always kind of bring it back to when Tommy and I were there. 32 years for Tommy, myself 12 to 15 years, depending on how you want to add it up. But Tommy, it feels like the business is starting to shift just a little bit. And whether it's boxing that's doing all their stuff in Saudi Arabia, the WWE was doing that years ago. And now it seems like international tours, international pay-per-views are all the rage. I know you watched Backlash. And what did you make of the show and the crowd?
Coach, 32 years with WWE, been to a lot of big events, seen a lot of crazy crowds. I've never sat and watched and listened to this crowd in France at Backlash. They were into it from pillar to post, from the start of the show to the end. They didn't sit down once, Coach. When I tell you they didn't sit down once. They had this chant going through the whole show. The cameras shook. The hard cameras, which is the wide shot, everybody that I'm talking about, when they took that, they were just jumping up and down, hands waving all over the place. They didn't sit down once, Coach. They didn't sit down once. It was incredible. It was one of the most fascinating things I've seen in a very long time. They saw a good show, too, also.
Yeah, I've always said this whenever we used to go to international tours that you helped set up and all the media surrounding it, that I always had to tell myself, how could they be so great? Now, I thought Backlash, they were next level great. But international tours have always been amazing. And if you're a wrestling fan, Tommy, and your favorite guy, let's say, is Cody Rhodes, and you only have one chance a year, because here in the States, you can go to Milwaukee, Chicago, Des Moines, all that's within, driving distance. But if one time a year, Tommy, to see your favorite guy, and a lot of these fans that we used to meet, they would save up. They didn't have great jobs, most of them, but they would save up every single penny or pound to spend on wrestling tickets. And a lot of them would try to go to as many of the shows that were in different countries as they could. Do you feel like the international tours now that it's red hot again, you could start seeing more than just potentially one stop a year in a city?
Absolutely, Coach. And I'll hit that with the press conference with Triple H at the end. There was a question asked by an Italian reporter saying, we have this stadium, brand new stadium, 60,000, 50,000 people. We would love to have the WWE there. So already Italy is putting their hat in the ring to say, hey, we could do it in France. You could do it in Italy, too. It's a hot commodity. And when you're hot, everybody wants you. They were also talking about they have a brand new stadium in France. This could be where WrestleMania could be. So,
wow. Can you imagine the backlash, no pun intended, from American fans who we feel like we own everything and that we should have everything right at our feet? Can you imagine if they put a WrestleMania overseas in France or Italy or England? The American fans will lose their minds, but finally understand what all of these European fans and all the fans around the world have had to deal with for 40 years. 40 years.
And let's face it, the crowd interaction is incredible. And Backlash for the last 2 years have been like that. Last year in Puerto Rico, Bad Bunny's entrance, the crowd was absolutely ballistic. I thought that was hot. And then when I
Mm-hmm.
turned on the France show, it didn't stop. I couldn't believe they didn't sit down once, Coach. It was incredible.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing. Here's the thing, Tommy. I want you to give me, let's start with the one thing you liked the most from Backlash and that you think the crowd equally liked as well.
Definitely the title match, Cody AJ. They put on some show, man. Two great workers in the ring, obviously, and they told a story going back and forth. At one point, you thought maybe Cody was going to lose the title, but he came through. That was one of the best for me. That was the best. The other one, not so much, was the women's tag match. I think. Even though they won the title, I think there's still to be a lot of work working with Jade, and I think that's why they put Bianca with her to help guide her to get where they want to put Jade.
I think that sometimes we, especially when things are going really, really well, we tend to think that every big signing, and I don't know what the dollars and cents are for her, but I know that there was a competition between AEW and WWE to sign her, and she looks like $1 million. Yes. I mean, she looks amazing. But here's the problem. I've said this for years and years and years. If you can't talk and you can't cut a promo, I don't care what you do in the ring, which, again, right now is not very good, average at best. Yeah. But she cannot cut a promo. And if she can't do that, they may have a big-time dud on their hands as far as where they thought she could go. And I would guess she's making over $1 million right now. Oh, that's what I would guess, right?
Absolutely.
If you're $1 million talent, then they expect something out of you. And if I'm Jade Cargill, I'm going home every single day, Tommy, and I am cutting promo after promo after promo because the fastest way to lose credibility is, yes, miss spots like she did in her match, which was ugly. But it's also not be able to make people care about you telling somebody else you're going to kick their ass. And I'm going to fight you wherever else. You got to make it believable. And right now, I don't believe her. I don't believe her.
Not all right.
So to me, SmackDown and Raw were just kind of, it's we're at that time of year. It's kind of like in the world of sports betting, our other big brand here under the driving the line. And whenever you go from May to August, the 3 months is kind of off until we get to closer to SummerSlam. So I didn't really think Raw and SmackDown were that great. Anything stick out to you from those shows?
It's all about the King of the Ring tournament, and we saw all those matches on Raw, and then you're going to see him on SmackDown, and with the Queen of the Ring too, which is going to lead to actually another foreign place, Jeddah. That's where the next, that's where the finals of the tournament will be at there. So, and my question is, Coach, the King of the Ring, you become King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring. Does it do a lot for your career? Because last year Xavier Woods won it, and also Zelina Vega. Did that really up their game in a year? Like, I don't know if it does anything anymore. It used to do stuff because it springboarded Steve Austin, right?
It did.
So Austin 316. So, but I don't know about now, Coach.
Well, I think when you talk about back in the day when they had big-time superstars win it, that was completely different because they would elevate that title, so to speak. But Xavier Woods, with all due respect, I love the New Day, but he's never been a singles guy, and I'm sure he went in a campaign and said, I would like to break off. Big E unfortunately had that bad injury, and I don't think we'll ever see him in the ring again, unfortunately, but he's managed to stay relevant and busy and on camera. But Xavier Woods and Kofi have kind of been – Kofi's a really good singles competitor, but Xavier Woods has always kind of needed the group. So to answer your question, I don't know if it does anymore because the level of star they're giving it to just can't elevate it to step in the ring with a Cody or a Roman or a Rock or anybody like that. So I don't know what they can do, but they've got to do something to let these mid-level guys shine. And it can't always be about – because we thought Cody Rhodes was going to be hurt. So all these guys are getting hurt, and then they're going on the sidelines, and now all of a sudden the houses come down. It's a trickle-down effect. You got to have star power, and sometimes you got to help make stars.
Yep.
So we'll see. Coming up at the end of the show, you do not want to miss a story involving Ric Flair. Yes, Ric Flair is in the news again. Is he right? Is he wrong? We'll find out. But right now, it's going to be a great interview. He is best friends with the Gronkowski family. Gronk. We're going to ask him about that. His run in the WWE, what he's doing now to help talent around the pro wrestling business. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on Behind the Turnbuckle, please welcome Mojo Rawley. And there he is, the man himself, one of the most talented men in and out of the ring you will ever meet. Welcome to Behind the Turnbuckle, Mojo Rawley. Hello, sir.
What's up, baby? Give me some of that turnbuckle action. We're coming in hot, my man.
I've been so looking forward to this interview. We just started the show a couple of months ago. We had Hurricane. You're number 3. We had Johnny Photo talking about all the great images. But the reason I was looking forward to this is because of all the different things you've done, all the different things you're doing right now. But I want to start, Mojo, with this. You're a football player. You played Division III. How come footballers tend to transition to pro wrestling so much better than everybody else seems to do?
First, I'll start by saying any athlete, the transition physically is much easier on us, right? Like, we got to the levels we got to because we were incredible athletes. We were extremely hardworking. We knew how to operate within a team, all of these things that you've probably heard already. So that's why, coming into professional wrestling, the athletes have a heads up in some aspects. But taking that a step further, football in particular, I mean, besides maybe MMA, football is the most physical sport, right? MMA, of course, being an individual sport. So when you're combining the team aspects with the physicality that's required, I mean, football tends to be the perfect fit coming into wrestling. So, I mean, you've seen tons of people come in. Not everyone has been successful. They've signed tons of athletes, football players in particular, that, didn't make it for one reason or another. Sometimes maybe their body took too much beating beforehand and they just didn't have enough left in the tank to make it up to the main roster. But dude, it really does help, man. It really does put you in a position to come in, be competitive, expect more, and just your background preps you for that.
Wow. Mojo, so when you came into the WWE, you were multiple-time 24/7 champ, and you were the Andre the Giant Memorial winner. How did that help your career?
Honestly, it didn't. If I'm being honest, hey, come on. Tommy, I appreciate you throwing me an alley-oop there, and I just absolutely whiffed the slam dunk with that. But hey, I mean, we're talking. We're men here. We're having a conversation.
That's right.
I'm not going to BS you. Let's call it what it is. I mean, look, the 24/7 title, that was fun, right? We had a blast with it. It was a fun storyline with R-Truth and Riddick Moss, and we were able to incorporate some other fun elements. But winning the 24/7 title doesn't exactly springboard your career. Nobody necessarily looks at it as a career-defining moment, but it's something really fun to do. You can have some cool moments at the time, but it's not going to be necessarily something when you're looking back 10, 20 years on your career, you're like, man, I'm really proud that I won that.
Are you saying it's not the same as a 7-time world champion? It's not on that same level?
I'll flat out just say that. I mean, maybe sometimes I'll act like it just for fun, but no, I mean, look, it's still cool, man. It's more the fact that you had a fun storyline for a while, right? And when I had it, I really did want to try to find a way to elevate the title a little bit. Like, R-Truth was having all the fun with it, and it was unbelievably entertaining, and it was such a good spot that opened up so much opportunity for so many people because a ton of people held it. But we had this little storyline going at one time where I was going to try and, morph it a little bit more into like the old school hardcore title. And there was going to be like this dichotomy within the same title with me as the heel trying to make it more hardcore, R-Truth winning it back and trying to take it to be a little bit more fun. And I thought that was going to be a cool bit, but things changed. We got old Robbie G into the mix and we had to abandon current storylines. But yeah, man, it was still cool when I had it. Go ahead. I know you want to say something.
I was going to say that you used the word fun several times in the last couple of minutes. And I think that's the thing that I've appreciated about you so much and why we've connected as friends more than just colleagues or in professionals, because you love to have a good time. How much do you think being a part of the Hype Brothers, you were at NXT, you're kind of all over the place, always trying to find a home, but how much was fun at your core of trying to make things fun for everybody else?
Inside the Hype Bros, or just my whole career in general?
Hype Bros and that.
Yeah, fun was always a word, as you know quite well, you had to be extremely careful with, right? Funny don't make money. That's the saying that they always say. So if you went too far down that path, it became a problem and no one took you seriously. And the 24/7 title was ultimately going to be your peak for a character like that. But, fun could be packaged in a lot of different ways. I mean, entertainment is fun, right? So for me, my element of fun that I really tried to hang my hat on was bringing that energy, right? Being the hype guy. I don't get hyped, I stay hyped. Like, that's one thing people can expect of me no matter what, especially early on in my career when I was very green, when I was still learning. I got thrown out there extremely quick because of that energy and because it was contagious for a lot of fans. Like, I could get them on my entrance big time, get everybody fired up, we're ready to go, and try to stick to something within my my arsenal, which was very limited at the time. But nobody was necessarily expecting bangers from me from the start. So I knew at that time it was like, hey, if my one goal or if my one mission is to get everybody hyped up for this stretch of time, whether it's to open and set the tone for the rest of the show, I wanted to do that to the best of my ability, man, because it's a long career. It's not like football with it's a shorter window. I mean, people do this for decades. Ric Flair is still doing it. Like, he's 75, he's still doing it, over at AEW. So it's unbelievable, like, the length you can get out of a career. So these things change as time goes on, but my thing, I always wanted to bring the hype one way or another.
Well, football equivalent was the Gronk. He brought the hype. He brought the fun. How did you guys become friends, and what was your big part of getting him into WWE?
Yeah, so I played college ball with two of his brothers, actually. Rob was still in, like, high school or middle school or whatever it was at the time, but I went to the University of Maryland for my last 3 years. I started out at a small Division III school, but once I transferred in, Dan and Chris Gronkowski were playing ball at Maryland. Chris and I only played there for, I believe, 1 year before he transferred out to go play with Rob at Arizona. But Dan was one of my best friends at Maryland, and he and I actually battled for highest GPA on the team every single year. I'd like to add that I definitely won that battle, even if it only ended up being by a .02 GPA. Whatever, a win's a win. I'll take it. But
you're damn right.
But dude, those guys were my best friends. So after football, I came back home with an injury. I met Gordy Gronkowski, who is the oldest brother, even though he acts like the youngest. I mean, that dude parties more than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. But just, pro baseball player, hard worker, very successful as well. And these brothers just became my second family, man. And we lived together. We all roomed together at one point. I think I lived with three of the five brothers at one point. And their dad was like my second dad. So there was that. Their dad is actually how I got into WWE. He was college roommates with Mike Rotunda at Syracuse, actually.
Oh, wow.
So
really?
Really?
Yeah, man. College roommates, bro. They're on the same football team. Actually, Randy Edsall, the old coach of Maryland, he was one of their teammates. They had a couple of more people that I think that there was like five of them in the same, like, giant apartment style room, but they all turned out to be somebody very successful. So it's kind of crazy, but that was how I got my introduction. I met Mike Rotunda and then, William Regal after that. And that was that.
So take me through this, because I love the behind the scenes stories, and obviously I was there for between 10 and 15 years, depending on how you want to rack up the years. And people ask me all the time, Mojo, they go, well, how'd you make that happen? Or how'd you pitch that to Vince or the writing team? I would love to know that the story behind Well, you got this coming up. I think Gronk would be, because he was a big part of that. Andre the Giant came in out of the crowd. We were actually there. Remember, we took SportsCenter to that WrestleMania, and we were up in the corner because I was at ESPN at that point when he came in, did that, and then you ended up winning. How did that whole pitch happen?
Yeah, it was very interesting. Zack Ryder had just gotten hurt, right? We were about to win. Well, we did win, actually. A number one contenders match for the tag titles with the Wyatt family, actually. And Zach blew out his knee in the final move of the match.
That's
so
right.
Everything got shaken upside down. But, every curse comes opportunity in some way. And it gave me an opportunity to go out and do my own thing in a solo career. And, I remember Vince was pretty excited to see where we could take that. And I went on a bit of a heater here. And I was the first to declare for the Andre that year. And I was told that it was going to be my year. So I was trying to think of a way to elevate the match, to make it, stand out, to do everything I could. Because I also knew how lucky I was. It was going to be my first ever WrestleMania. And I was going to have a Mania moment already. And I was
amazing.
Like, I really want to do whatever I can to give back here. Because, some people wrestle for 20 years and don't have a Mania
Never
moment.
get it. So, never get it.
I knew that Rob had always talked about wanting to do something with me in wrestling. Obviously, WWE, any big star, any big athlete, they will gladly accept him for something. So it just made sense. So I had the conversation with Rob, had the conversation with WWE. He was still in season 2, and I don't even think he told the Patriots that he was doing the spot. I want to say Vince called Kraft and buzzed him or something, or someone from WWE just to
what?
Yeah, like put it on their radar. Like, hey, we're gonna take care of your guy, but don't be surprised when you see him. Like, don't be mad at us, kind of a thing.
He may have that shoulder injury or something. Holy cow!
Exactly. So he came in, and we figured out some way to just get him a little bit of involvement in the end that wouldn't take away from the match too much, that would still give us the opportunity to do all of our stuff. And that's where it ended up taking us, man.
Wow. Amazing.
It's pretty crazy.
It really, really is. Now, before we get into your transition, because you're one of the rare talents, and I say talent, and I use that word very, very seriously, because it's hard to leave the WWE and still stay on that level. So I want to get to that in a second. But before we do, I know there's a lot of talent out there, young talent. And we just saw The Undertaker, who talked about the backstage now and how he's a little disappointed that there's not more competition, that more guys aren't stepping up and pitching story ideas, but they're watching like The Rock and Cody and said, oh, that's great, but what about me? You are a guy, because you and I had conversations about this. It can be very, very frustrating when you know you're talented, but you're not getting a shot to show it, or you don't have a storyline, you pitch things. What would be your advice right now to a young talent that's in the same kind of position that you were in, that just doesn't seem to get that opportunity?
I would say you got to be proactive. And I would also say that you have to be accepting that part of this is absolutely your fault. Like, you have to be able to go out there and know that if you were the best in every single category, they couldn't deny you. You would be on TV no matter what. Doesn't matter how much they don't like you. This is a business. We've seen people sue the company that go out, to all the major news outlets and bury the company in a way where for years we all thought they would never, ever, ever again show up in a WWE ring. And if it made sense, they came back. More than one time even, they come and go as they please. So one, you got to be honest with yourself, man. You got to look yourself in the mirror and see where you're light, where you can improve your game, what you can be doing. And then two, once you have that ability, you got to make sure that they know that. And that's where you got to be proactive. You got to put pitches in, man. You got to do your homework, and you got to try things. And when you go in and you take the time away from someone like Triple H or Nick Khan right now, you better come correct. Because if you go in there without a pitch, without an idea, without several ideas, without the answers to all their questions that they're going to ask, you're wasting their time. Like, they're busy enough. And now you've wasted your credibility and your time value. So when you show up the next time, maybe they're not so willing to take that meeting or listen to you because they have a billion things going on at all times. And you got to keep that in mind too, because it's not just you doing this. Everybody else is doing this too. So when you're crafting these pitches, you can't submit what you want to do always. It has to be a combination of what you want to do and what they need as well. And if you want to be a solo guy, but they need a tag team, or maybe you can be someone's heater, whatever that is, you should have options, man. Have all of these things. Have a few different things that they can go into that are wildly different. It's not just the same storyline with 3 different possible finishes. Because that's another thing. You got to leave them room for them to get behind this too and add their stank into it, so they can feel involved and like they participated in the process. It's the whole thing, man. It's it's tough, but you got to pick and choose your spots. Don't go in there every single week, and don't go in there once a year. Like you got to just feel it out and see when the right times are. But yeah, I was never that guy. I always said if they fire me because I'm too annoying or too over asking, like, that's fine. But it's better than me living the rest of my life with a what if. I can't have that.
That's right. So talk about your transition from the ring to Main Street Media right now.
That was honestly a gift. Straight up. I'd like to act like it was some brilliant plan that I had and I carefully constructed it. It was honestly a gift. So I'm co-hosting TMZ Sports right now alongside our executive producer, Mike Babcock, who's grown to be an incredible friend of mine, just as such an amazing human being. But, my entire wrestling career, especially the second half, TMZ would call every here and there, and they would ask to have me do a segment on the show, right? And it was, whether it's about football, whether it's about wrestling, whatever, sports lifestyle, something. Sometimes it was just random stuff. They would have me on. And the second I became available from WWE, TMZ was my first call. They called me and asked me to jump on the show and do kind of like a trial run, and they offered me the job. And it turns out that I guess after the first interview I did there, Harvey Levin saw it and he liked it, and he said, keep tabs on this guy, bring him on the show every 3-6 months, whatever it is, let's see what he's got. And then at some point he told them, as soon as he's free, offer him the job. And that's what happened. So they had done their homework, and I'm glad they did, because this has been an incredible relationship, one that's been so fun. It legitimately don't feel like I work at all. It's probably one of the most fun parts of my day, if not number one on the list. So it's been a match made in heaven, man.
I really feel like at this point, and Tommy, you'll have to indulge me here, that either TMZ Sports needs to be a 3-anchor show, or maybe just me and you, big boy. I feel like that could be the future.
That would be great.
What do you think, Mojo?
Well, we got to jump you on the team. I mean, my guy Babcock, though, he's the glue, so we definitely need him. But the 3 of us, the trio, the trifecta, I'm in, bro. I'm all for that.
Let's go. Now, I've done a million interviews since I transitioned from the WWE, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. You probably don't realize what you've done for other talent coming from the wrestling space, but I know this to be true, that a lot of people came after me to ESPN, and I kind of opened that door. What has been the most difficult thing about staying in the world of entertainment, but now you're kind of a journalist. Now you've got to kind of paint between the lines, so to speak, in a completely different way, and you've been successful doing it. The most difficult part?
Honestly, I mean, the most difficult part, I suppose, is I'll say, like, a little bit of jealousy, right? Like, I miss being in the ring to an extent, right? I want to be out there. My wrestling career got cut short, because of COVID. Destroyed my lungs at the time. It took me forever to bounce back from that. Wow. And, I had way more that I wanted to do there. So being able to interview and talk to my friends about their big moments, I mean, part of me is like, damn, dude, like, you need to get back out there and do your thing. Like, you could still mix it up and you could do something here and seriously make a run. So that side is a little bit difficult, but when it applies to these interviews, it really doesn't detract from the excitement that I have for our people, because that's been really cool, right? Because I feel like we've really boosted the professional wrestling presence since I started
You have.
co-hosting over
Absolutely.
at TMZ, and bringing the talent on has just been obviously way easier just because they're all good buddies. But it really has been cool to highlight people's big moments. And for the casual sports fan that either doesn't watch wrestling or hasn't watched in a while, we're in a unique position where we can explain to them and make them understand why these moments are so monumental, and why they matter, and why they should pay attention to what's going on in all these wrestling promotions. So that side has been really cool. But it's also, TMZ, we focus a lot on lifestyle, right? We'll leave the X and the O's to ESPN. We'll talk about it somewhat, but that's not going to be the only thing we discuss. We want to get to know the people behind the helmet, right? So being able to talk about these wrestlers and what they have going on in their personal lives, and things coming up, and events that they've done, and charities they've worked with. I mean, that's a really cool spot for everybody, because it shines up the talent in a way that the X's and O's can. It's great for our show because we're showing the people a look, a side of them that they haven't seen. It's great for the promotion too, to sell their talent in a different way.
Well, recently you had the owner of AEW on, Mr. Tony Khan. Tell me what you got out of that interview with Mr. Khan.
Well, honestly, that was okay. So Tony and I had met at a NXT takeover, like my second, third year in the company. So forever ago.
Wow, he's a fan. He was a fan back then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, big pro wrestling guy. He knows every wrestler on the market, no matter where they are, which I don't know how he does that, and runs AEW and works with the Jaguars and everything else that he and his family do. But I mean, he's up to speed on everything, and it's unbelievable. But yeah, man, like being able to talk to him about just life and catch up with him after that long. I didn't think he would remember me, and he did. That was pretty cool too. We were not recording for half the interview. We were just kind of like shooting it and talking about life and sports and management and all these things. And it was really cool because I was due for a conversation with him. We work with his company, AEW, through my company, Paragon Talent Group, every single week, almost every single day. But I hadn't caught up with Tony in a bit, so it was really cool there. And then, yeah, chatting all things AEW on the show. That was a big get for us, man. I was really excited about that interview.
What's the difference between him and the former chairman? Did you feel like their personalities are way different, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, when I was talking to Tony, man, it was like catching up with an old buddy, it felt like, right? I mean, just an incredibly friendly and personable guy. Not that I wasn't necessarily expecting that, because you always hear how friendly it is, but I guess it's hard to fully comprehend and grasp that until you speak with them, because you never know. Everybody's relationships are different, so you never know how it's going to go. But I don't know, man. You just get a vibe from him that he's not as stressed out or worried about it. Things like he does all that he can. His company's on fire, and you just don't get that uncomfortable feel with him. Like a lot of times when you talk to certain people at WWE, you are not going to have a conversation that friendly. It's always going to be that boss talent relationship, and you gotta watch what you say.
Yep.
And some might argue that there's some benefits there, and maybe there is, but I feel like when you're really on that personable level with someone, you can really get a better feel of who they are, where they're coming from, what they're capable of, and you can just size them up a lot better. So it's just two completely different approaches, both work. And that's why I'm glad that there's two mega powerhouses in the game, two completely different promotions that talent can go to. And man, thank goodness for both of them, man, because it's just been, the talent have won in a massive way by both existing.
And that's the thing. So many fans out there, Mojo, they feel like competition is a bad thing, or they're always going like this, and this is a business that basically there's two places that you can make a legitimate living that you don't have to do anything else. There's some other places around the world, but basically here in the United States it's two, and that means there's two places to get offers from. And you already mentioned that you have a talent agency. So I'm glad you went down that road, because you've kind of taken on roles that nobody else has ever done. What do you get out of helping the talent now either secure a spot in a contract in AEW or maybe appearances around the world?
Man, it's been a blessing, man. When we started this company, I could not have imagined it was going to blow up like this. I certainly hoped for it. I definitely knew that it was possible, because representation in professional wrestling is just so minimized. And for decades, I mean, if you had an agent or a manager of any representative of any kind, yeah, you had to be prepared the second you signed that paperwork that you might be fired the next day, because that happened to a lot of people. So I'm glad we've gotten to a point where those are more welcomed, where it's more acceptable. And there's someone that can look out for the talent, starting with WWE. I mean, look, man, they have a well-oiled machine. When you're there and you're in good standing, they have everything for you that you possibly need. Once you get through that contract negotiation process, which is easier for some than others, way more difficult for some than others. I mean, right there, they got everything for you. If you want to get into the movies, a television show, you want to do appearances, PR, community work, write a book, charities, like they have literal departments for all of this, as you guys know. So that is very helpful. But during that contract point, or if you're not somebody that they're necessarily wanting to volunteer for that other spot, you're really on your own. So you need people in place to help you navigate those waters. I mean, with AEW, managers, agents, they're not frowned upon at all, right? Like they're just used to that. That's where Tony Khan comes from. He has his own management company and agency and all these things, and Jaguars and the soccer team, like all this, they're used to that. So there's no, barriers to entry there, if you will. But it's just been awesome to see that the process has finally changed. But you were about to say something. Definitely.
I was going to follow up and basically say the whole reason Vince didn't want to work with agents because he didn't want to pay guys fair market value. And that's just fact. And that's just when Brock got his big deal, when The Rock kind of went past that $5 million barrier. And that was unheard of back then. And now, Mojo, we've got guys that reportedly are in the $10 to $25 million range, like Roman, like Cody. And if you compare this business, $10 billion, to other businesses, NFL, Major League Baseball, the top players make $25 to $50 million. So why shouldn't some guys make $10 to $25 million? And I'm happy we're at that place, because that used to get me so frustrated. Not that I was going to make that kind of money, but that top guys, if the company's going to brag every three months, biggest quarter we ever had, we made 100. The guys at the top should benefit from that. And now, how nice is it from your perspective to see guys getting the big money like Roman, Cody, and these guys?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is long overdue, right? I mean, professional wrestling, you see the numbers. I mean, how socially active and engaged the platforms are, the amount of fans, the amount of shows. I mean, 52 weeks a year. I mean, guys are thrashing their bodies. And for a while, it was for peanuts. Like, you're on the main roster and you were still struggling to pay your bills. Like, what kind of crap is that? I mean, that was horrible. I mean, the roster minimums have increased now, which is absolutely nice. Obviously, we want to see that continue to move upward. There are some outliers that are in that, $3 to $10 million range a year. And again, you compare it to sports, it's like, well, I'd like to see those people get a little closer to that 25 to 50 a year if they're over here killing it and doing all of these things. But I mean, it's a process, and we're going to work to keep getting there. And I'm glad that, our company has been helpful in trying to bridge that gap. We've negotiated tons of contracts with all the bigs, and they just they're getting better and better, and that's awesome to see. But yeah, man, we still got a ways to go, but we're moving in the right direction.
What do you make of the lead up of the whole Rock, Roman, Cody at WrestleMania? What did you think of that?
Man, I think it's great. Honestly, whoever won, that's very much secondary to the storyline that they were able to produce. I mean, the bloodline with all the players that were involved with that, because that wasn't just Roman, right? I mean, you
No.
had tons of people in there, and of course, the people that they were working against for years. But the Usos, my goodness, that's been awesome to see. They're come up from a tag team to doing what they're doing now. The character work that they put in, I mean, that was Hollywood quality, right? Like, I mean, those storylines were incredible. Sami Zayn coming in, I mean, on the outside looking in, it's like, what does Sami Zayn have anything to do with this storyline? And they found a way to make that work and be the most interesting and intriguing aspect of that storyline for such a long time. And Sammy, just a guy that has been paying his dues for years, never having a bad match, working with everybody. For my money, one of the best promo guys in the history of
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed.
you know, now being on the outside and being able to get some of our talent into movies or television shows and commercials and being able to speak with, you know, acting agents and acting coaches and all of these things. I mean, when you see Sammy's promos, they're so real, right? And there's something that they could apply to mainstream cinema, because wrestlers, we cut wrestler promos and we have wrestler storylines, and it's very different than how acting is in Hollywood. But he's one of the guys that could transition over with the blink of an eye, right? I mean, it's just you feel that when he speaks, and that's why the fans love him so much, because they can relate to him. But man, again, all that to say, these build-ups to these storylines have just gotten better and better, and there's no doubt that wrestling is at its very best that it's been in, man, probably since the Attitude Era, when enough said there, right?
Oh. You mean the 10 years I spent in the WWE,
Yeah,
right?
man,
Smackdown,
exactly.
in the Attitude Era, those years. And I got two questions left, and we'll let you get out of here. And we appreciate the time. My God, how great is this? Can't wait to have you on again. But you mentioned the Attitude Era and the competition between talent. We had Hurricane on a couple of weeks ago, and he's the only trainer for Logan Paul. And Ronda Rousey had come out and said, oh, I didn't have everything they give Logan Paul, and I didn't have the opportunity. I said, I never saw her come in early. I never saw her working out in the ring. She had the same opportunities as anybody else. And then also you see the reports of people going, oh, Rock's coming back, and he's taking somebody's spot. It drives me insane when I read those stories, whether they're true or whether they're not. When you see somebody like The Rock come back and do what he does, what do you think of from a talent perspective when you're seeing one of the absolute very best that's ever done anything, whether it's movies or certainly in the WWE?
I would say talent are entitled to some level of frustration. Absolutely. If I'm a talent in the locker room, and here's Logan Paul, and here's The Rock, and here's Cena, and here's Taker coming back, and here's all these people, it's like, well, damn it, there's half the Mania spots. I've been killing myself all
That's
year.
true.
All the live events, where have these guys been? Blah, 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 blah. So I think you're entitled to only that part of that, but only that part of that, because at the end of the day, you have to keep in mind, first of all, this is a business. So if you want to talk about Rock coming back or Undertaker coming back, those guys have paid their dues more than anybody on the roster today. They did it for longer. They did it at maybe a more pivotal time in the company, where without those guys, we don't have the company as it exists today.
That's right.
We need those guys. And they come back and they work with the young talent and they coach us up. So you have to look at that as this is an opportunity for me to learn and to get better, and not as this guy cost me my spot for this one day or this 1 3-month stretch, because hopefully you're going to be around a lot longer than that, and the lessons that you could learn from them will last a lot longer. But now you're factoring in these guys like, you know, Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, some of these other celebrities that come in and just get the absolute rocket. And for those, have those guys paid their dues? Well, absolutely not. Is the company going to throw every single solitary resource behind them? Yes, they're going to put the marketing machine behind them. Yes, they're going to pair them with the best talent. Yes, they're going to give them all the best promo spots. yes, and storylines and all of these things, and they haven't done a damn thing inside this business. You look at it too, it's like, well, we're trying to sell tickets. We're trying to reach new audiences. Bad Bunny can reach a group that we can't. You know, Logan Paul can reach a group that we have not yet, you know? So these people, they add a lot in, but I put some of that on the promotion too. It's like, well, let's find a way that we don't have to use those guys to bury our current guys, that bringing in the special celebrity guest doesn't bury a top talent for a day where it's hard for that guy to recover. You know, there's a way to make it so that we all win, right? But those guys add a ton of value. And when you look at it from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Ideally, we just find a way to make it a win-win for everybody.
I tell people all the time that say Rock hasn't, Rock comes back, it's 30 minutes. I said, when I started, he was 28 days a month on the road. He was at the Cow Palace. They were doing $500,000 houses Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The dude has more than paid his dues to earn that big time payday. I love that answer, and we're certainly going to use that in a lot of different places. So thank you for that. Last question,
too, man. I want my Rock Roman match, dude. Like
I know.
I wanted that
that's next year.
That for me. I mean, I know Cody Rhodes is on a heater, but I mean, we're talking about the bloodline, and this was the match. And I'm not going to say anything because I can appreciate long-term storytelling, right? And we're probably going to have a lot of good things coming in the future, so I don't want to jump. But getting that match while Roman was on that heater and had that streak, ooh, that would have made that such a better situation. But I understand it was a tough situation with so many elements to satisfy.
Can you imagine what that's going to be like next year? How much money both guys are going to make if they end up doing that January to March, and all of a sudden the bloodlines, oh man, I can't wait for it whenever they do it. All right, last question. I'll let you get out of here because, hey, you've got other jobs you got to get to, big boy. Now, the next 5 years for Mojo Rawley looks like what?
The next 5 years to, Paragon Town Group to become a household name. Our company has just grown unbelievably fast. In the past 3 years, we've done paid deals for over 350 talent, almost 400, I want to say. I don't know what the current tally is, but I mean, it's blowing up, and we're doing everything from long-term contract negotiations to indie bookings, autograph signings, third-party brand deals, sponsorships, endorsements. We're representing about a dozen pro sports leagues right now at this point too. So that's been awesome. So I want to see that continue to expand and blow up, because that's just been so good for our talent in the world of professional wrestling to, allow for that extra category, that extra world to join the business. But outside of that, man, I mean, I've been teasing it for 3 years straight about getting back into the ring. I have to get back in the ring at some point, and I don't know what that's going to look like. Honestly, right now, the thing that probably makes the most sense is just picking some independent dates that are fun for me. I definitely could not swing going back to a full-time schedule. I'm too busy right now. This talent management company, there's too many people relying on me to bring them work and opportunity and representation. So that would be selfish for me to go back, so I can't do it. But doesn't mean I can't pick up some fun indie shots along the way. More so for fun because I miss it, man. I mean, if you would ask me when I got out of WWE if I ever would have considered doing one-off indies, I would have said, hell no, I'm going big or that's it. Go big or go bust, kind of a thing. But now you never know where life's going to take you, and it's a blessing to be in that position. So those are the two things I'm looking at over the next 5.
Well, I got to tell you, man, we've got a lot of respect for you. You know how much I respect you as a person, as a talent, as a friend. So thank you for the time, but best of luck, because we're all doing this thing together and you're doing it at the top level. So thank you, sir. And I'm sure we're going to be texting very, very soon.
Oh, you already know, brother. Happy to hop back on anytime. Guys, thank you so much for having me on today. This was a ton of fun, man.
Man, I learned a lot right there, Tommy. How about you?
Unbelievable. The stories he had and where his career has gone and where he is now, where he wants to go. What a great interview, folks. It really
and he's a really good guy. He's just a really good guy,
regular guy, and
Yeah.
who has a initiative to go forward and help pro wrestlers along the way, and that's commendable on his part. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the boys appreciate everything that he does.
Yeah, in a business that's all about me, he has started something. You heard him say it. He had no idea it was going to blow up to be what it is today. Right. And now thank God, because it used to drive me nuts because I wanted to have an agent back in the day so I could do side hustle stuff and still be in the WWE. I didn't want to be WWE centric, so then I couldn't go to an ESPN or whatever, and it was difficult for me. Right. It really. I could have used an agent back then to help with that transition, so I'm glad he's doing that. But he mentioned Ric Flair, and that's how I want to close the show because we love some gossip, we love some stories. You're like, what really happened? Well, it was all over the news that Ric Flair got kicked out of a pizzeria. And according to Ric Flair's quotes, Tommy, he spent over $1,500 at this said pizzeria. That's a lot of pizza.
How do you spend $1,500?
I don't know. Maybe they had expensive wine. I have no idea. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, Rick, why are you spending $1,500? Yeah. But he says he took pictures with at least 20 members of the staff and got into a dispute with a kitchen manager, and they asked him to leave. Now, said restaurant has come out and said, you know what? We're going to be classy. This was all Rick's fault. We have video to prove it, but we're not going to release the video. So my question to you is this. If he continues to make this a thing and makes this a story and they have the video, would it be their right to release the video to defend themselves?
Absolutely. I would think absolutely. I agree. Why not? I mean, Ric Flair is, talking this what happened there and stuff like that. You got to defend yourself if you're the restaurant and the credibility of your restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't, people are saying, man, I'm not going there anymore. Look what they did to Ric Flair, a big star. So,
well, yeah, he did. At the end of the article I read, he did say, if you're looking for a really nice restaurant in the Gainesville, Florida area, don't go there. And that's the power of a guy with his following. And I love Rick, been around him for damn near 25 years. And I've seen him ups and downs and I've seen him act certain ways. And that is not for me to decide. But Tommy, at this point of your career, was he 78, 77, something like that?
Yeah.
Why are we getting into fights with kitchen managers and anybody like that at any point? What are we doing?
I don't know, Coach. I mean, you're back in the kitchen taking pictures with the staff, and how do you get in a fight? How does that
I don't know. We saw this story. People don't think that this could happen to this pizzeria. There's a story, and it's a different scenario, and it's since been settled. But Patrick Mahomes' brother in Kansas City last year got into a mix-up, let's call it that, with one of the managers of a small restaurant. That restaurant is now out of business.
Wow.
Because Jackson Mahomes took to social media. I didn't do anything. He absolutely did. There's video of it. And Patrick is so beloved, he didn't step in, and maybe he just said, hey, man, that's my brother. He's an idiot, and I'm not going to touch it. That business is now out of business, Tommy, because of that incident.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, wow. True story. So bad publicity can certainly kill a business. So we'll see what happens, but these stories got to stop. I mean, Ric Flair loves to be in the mix. He loves to be, but at some point, come on. It's a pizzeria. It's a pizzeria.
Totally.
All right, Tommy, next week is a really big week here on the show.
Yes, it is.
Our guest has well over, I believe it's 10 million followers collectively across all platforms. He's a huge WWE fan. He was a part of WrestleMania, and he's going to be right here on the show. Comedian Gabriel Iglesias on BTT. How fired up are you?
I can't wait, Coach. This is our biggest star yet, and he's a huge fan of the business. And boy, I can't wait to have an interview with him and talk to him. And he's a very funny man, and this is a big deal for us.
Oh, it really, really is. Fluffy, thank you in advance. Thank you to his team. Can't wait to have him on. And one of my favorite shows, this is a shoot, is Mr. Iglesias on Netflix. I've always loved it, where he plays a teacher, drives around in a van, and I absolutely love it. So I'm thrilled that we're going to have him. And then in 3 weeks, we will have DDP will be on the show. So we're trying to stack these interviews up for all of you, simply having a good time telling our stories and hopefully entertaining you guys just a little bit. Any final words, Tommy?
Another great show, Coach, and we got some good stuff coming in the next couple of weeks. So, folks, stay tuned right here. Unbelievable.
We'll be here. You're damn right. Every single week during the off season, so to speak, we'll have something for you. So turn on your notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the show, and that's how we grow. So that's going to do it for us. For producer man, always behind the scenes, making the show look like $1 million. My partner, Big Tommy C. I am the coach. We'll see you next week right here on the only show you need to tune in for, of course, Behind the Turnbuckle. Take care.